You know, I hope one day I get to be in charge of a massively successful survival horror franchise, just so that when someone slides one of the worst game pitches of all time across my desk, I can greenlight them without a second thought. Oh, wait a minute, that's what they do over at Capcom. Maybe I should apply for a job. Throughout Resident Evil's history, much like other horror game franchises, the series has had its fair share of ups and downs. Ups that go as high as Resident Evil 4, and lows that go as low as Umbrella Corps. Now I remember the confusion when this thing was unveiled in 2015. Resident Evil was in a weird spot at the time. The series' last mainline entry was Resident Evil 6, and the newest game was Resident Evil Revelations 2, a game where you had to buy each chapter individually to play the full game. I'm so glad this business model never caught on. But then along came Umbrella Corps, a multiplayer game where you would play as Umbrella goons and get into firefights with each other. It was meant to be a unique, hyper-tactical shooter, with the added element of having zombies roam around the maps. At the time, it was a supremely confusing move on Capcom's part. They were already on a losing streak. Then they just went and dropped a multiplayer shooter which also features the Umbrella Corporation and zombies. Just what the fans wanted. It just seemed like Capcom was twisting in the wind, not knowing what to do with their Golden Goose franchise. And what I can say is that Umbrella Corps was not it. And now nearly a decade later, I'm here to tell you that this game is still not it. See, surprisingly, Umbrella Corps is still up for purchase for a grand total of 27 Australian buckaroos. And there's always been a part of me that kind of wants to fork that over and see what this is all about. But it wasn't until a Steam sale recently, when the game came down to $7, that I decided it was time to pull the trigger. And after playing it, today I'm going to be telling you why this is a game that you should avoid like the plague. So jumping in, the first thing I wanted to try out was multiplayer. And queuing up, I slowly realized that this plan might not work, since I was the only player in the world playing this at the time. The good thing about sitting in queue for a long time is that I got to customize my character a bit. Now I wanted the full Umbrella Corps experience, so I bought the special edition where you get to play as big name characters. Strangely enough, these VIPs like Chris, Wesker, and Leon aren't actually in the game. You're apparently just wearing masks. You can even decorate these masks with stickers and stuff. You can get some pretty hilarious results. Although having these faces get called masks do make them unintentionally creepy. Like, these look pretty real, man. Are we talking masks as in birthday party or Leatherface variety? I feel like I need to know the answer to this one, because the more I sit on this screen, the more disturbed I'm feeling. But eventually giving up on the multiplayer, all that was really left was the game's single player campaign. And yeah, I bet you didn't know that was a thing. It is a bit of a stretch to call it a campaign though, as the experiment is made up of 24 missions where you kill zombies in different maps. There's also a pretty loose storyline that comes in the form of text you can read before and after missions, and the overall gist is that we play as an Umbrella goon named 3A TAC 7, who's being used as a lab rat to test Umbrella's new zombie fighting combat style. So jumping into the first level, holy shit, what is that view model? I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about this, but the view model is one of my biggest problems with this game. I mean, what the fuck is he doing? What kind of combat stance requires you to put the gun next to your ear? Playing this game is actually kind of painful, because this position looks painful. Bro has got to be grinding some of his bones together to hold this position. But getting into gameplay, the movement is incredibly stiff. I think it has something to do with the feeling that the camera is attached to the gun instead of my character, but it's just such an odd camera angle. I mean, this camera angle is what you would get usually in a third-person shooter when you aim down sights. And then our actual aim down sights takes you into first person as if you were in a first-person video game. This game just loves its aiming animations, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't feel great, which is kind of surprising since Umbrella Corps is all about that movement. Our little Umbrella agent is pretty spry, and he can actually run up certain walls, which I'm gonna say, that shit's cool. I like it, but the movement overall just doesn't gel well. If you're sprinting, your character will automatically jump over and climb stuff, but if you're walking, they add like an extra button push to do any of those sprint actions. And yeah, I know, one button push doesn't seem like a big deal, but with the zombies we're dealing with in this game, you gotta be on the move. You see, this is where a pretty big problem rears its head. The zombies in this game were made to be background obstacles. In firefights, they would ignore you unless you got damaged a lot. So what this means is that a lot of zombie moves from other Resident Evil games aren't here. There's no tackle quick time events or lunges they do at you. There's a reason why they added these things in previous games. It's so that zombies wouldn't just instantly damage you as soon as they touched you. But here, pretty much if you're caught off guard by a zombie, it's really unforgiving. You just instantly take damage. Now for this first level, that whole thing isn't really a problem, because get this, the gameplay's also pretty fun. You're just put in an area and told to let loose. It's pretty satisfying. The zombies don't put up too much of a fight, but there's still times where you can get into danger, and we also get to try out a bunch of different weapons in this intro. All up, I'd say the SMG is pretty much the only way to go in this game. The shotgun is great for damage, but the reload time is ridiculous. I could go make a sandwich in the time it takes to get another mag in. Apart from that, we also learned that melee is incredibly strong. You can one-hit kill every zombie in these opening levels. And what's funny is that your actual melee weapon is less effective than your quick bash. There were so many times when I got killed because I wanted to aura farm with an ice pick, which, while on that topic, what's the deal with this thing? This is one of the strangest melee weapons I've ever seen in a game. No combat knife, no knuckle dusters. We're going straight to something you'd see a Morton Joe whip out. Okay, finally getting my initial complaints out of the way. I'll also just mention that you don't actually get to play as your character. Like, yeah, I get we're playing as 3A Tac 7, but why can't my actual character be 3A Tac 7? It would have been nice to know that the cosmetics that I bought weren't available in single player. Oh well, at least I get the pleasure of looking at them in the main menu. Lucky me. So overall in these stages, I'm gonna say that we're off to a better start than I thought we would be. On some level, the gameplay can be satisfying if you look past some of the bigger problems, but trust me when I say that those problems I mentioned, they're just the start. But moving on, we enter the next stage of the experiment where we're sent to a facility where an active bioterror incident is taking place. And here we're doing exactly what we were doing before, except they add dogs. And oh boy, these things suck. The Resident Evil dogs have always been tougher than usual enemies, but they are fucking broken in this game. First up, you only hear them coming when they're like 5 meters away from you. And by that point, they're already probably lunging at you. And this is where the problems with the damage come into play. Because with the zombies, it's fine. They're really slow and stupid, so the occasional hit doesn't really matter. But the dogs, holy shit, they are so fast, and the absolute second they touch you, you will take significant damage. And considering that they attack in packs, they can pretty much insta-kill you if you're not on your game. Fuck having your head on a swivel. Your head needs to be a merry-go-round, otherwise you're gonna get caught with your pants down. During this section, they also begin introducing these levels where you need to complete multiple missions before leaving, and combining this with the dogs is a nightmare, because if you die on the 3rd mission, you gotta do the entire thing again. So you could be on the home stretch, nearly done with all the objectives, and then a dog will come out of nowhere and just insta-kill you. But hey, during great hardship comes great innovation. And it was during this level that I started putting together a bit of a strategy, which came in the form of not using guns at all. See, if you pull out your melee weapon, you actually get a higher field of view. And combining that with the quick melee, you can actually clean up zombies pretty effectively. This strategy can be really satisfying too, as it just comes down to timing the melee swings correctly. As for the map, this one's okay. Definitely not a great map to introduce the dogs on though. The corners are just too tight and there's a lot of doors, so you never know if you'll be running directly into more dogs. The next level is where shit gets real though, in both a gameplay and story sense. Up until now, the story has been very blah blah blah, this is a training situation, blah blah blah. But then we get sent to the village from Resident Evil 4 and our handler tells us that we've caught the attention of someone very high up in the organization. Someone that scares everybody shitless. But that's none of our business, as our business is dealing out death. And working our way through the next few levels, we learn the meaning of pain. During this section, we're now consistently made to do the multiple objective missions, and one of the worst ones really shines through here.
Transfer point located.
This is the control point objective, where you have to sit on a spot for 10 seconds at a time and do that 5 times. The only issue is now we're facing faster enemies, dogs, and motherfucking birds. You heard me right. The new enemy type introduced here is the crow, which will spawn about every 10 seconds fly towards you and start pecking you to death. The only way to get rid of these guys once they start pecking you is to melee them, and they are just a pain in the ass. I understand that they needed something to stop people from climbing a building and farming kills, but I know these guys can throw axes and shit. I've played a bit of Resident Evil 4. The main reason I'm complaining about this level though is because it's so tiny. Mix that with the fact that every enemy is fast as hell now, and you can't even climb a building to escape getting damaged, and you have the most infuriating map so far. But in the story, our handler slowly grows more and more curious about this super executive that's watching us, as he says the guy acts like he was involved in the plot of Resident Evil 4. Eventually, curiosity gets the better of him, and he says he's stolen a hair sample to run some DNA tests. Funnily enough, this ends up being the last time we hear from him, as we're contacted by a new researcher who says our previous handler has gone missing. By the way, a little side note, if it's not obvious who they're talking about here, it's Albert Wesker. You know, the Wesker who died in Resident Evil 5 and fans have been waiting for him to come back. Yeah, Umbrella Corps is the game that resurrected him. It's crazy. But we don't actually get too much more information on this storyline, as our new handler doesn't actually care about any of that, and the tests continue onwards normally. The lack of interesting story is made up here though with a really great map. Since we're taken to an area from Resident Evil 5, this map is easily the best in the game. One, because it looks really nice, and two, because it actually gives you space to move around. The Resident Evil 4 map was nearly broken from how small it was. Like, if you're gonna have some enemies that hit you as soon as they touch you, you need to give the player some space to move, which thankfully this map does. The only downside is that we meet a new enemy here called the mutated zombie. These things have a ton of health, they can take half of your health in a single hit, and they sprint everywhere they go. They're pretty much a super tough, super high damage version of the dog, and it is horrible. The only good thing is that the mutated have the pathfinding skill of me after I hit the pub, and they can't climb or crawl or drop off high ledges. So you can really just block these guys with a piece of geometry if you need. And yeah, although this map isn't too hard, it turns out to be just a bit of a breather before what comes next, which is Raccoon City. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't this place get nuked? And yeah, this is just apparently a replica. But getting all the nice things to say out of the way first, I will say that this map looks really good. I'm pretty sure this was one of the only maps in the game that wasn't directly ripped from another Resident Evil, so it's clear they actually put some effort into this one, but looks cannot save us from bad gameplay, because this is the worst level in the entire game. First up, the visibility is really bad. It's dark and there's rain all over your screen, so it gets pretty easy to miss enemies like dogs and crows. But even if you do see them coming, there's no guarantee you'll survive, because this map is cramped as fuck. There are tons of places where you can get surrounded and nearly no places where you can turn around and get some decent shots off. The next map takes place inside the Raccoon City Police Department, and I actually like this map since it's a remake of the original police department. Like, I think I've seen the remakes version so much that I forgot just how small the OG was. But during this section, we begin to test out a new device called the Zombie Jammer, which when activated stops all zombies from giving a shit about you. It's pretty refreshing to not get swarmed for once, and I don't have a ton more to say about this area, so let's talk about the music real quick, because this game has a lot of music, like nearly 60 tracks worth of it. And what confuses me is how unbelievably inconsistent it is. Near the start of my play session, I wrote down in my notebook, music is good. But the more I played, the more I was like, what am I talking about? The game swings back and forth between rock, EDM, cinematic orchestra, and disturbing ambience. It's the strangest mixed bag, and it actually erodes the vibe of the game. Like, I've gone through the whole soundtrack, and there is literally one track that I actually like. The The entire game should have been this vibe, but instead they just flip-flop between wanting to be the soundtrack to the Mercenaries mode or being a super serious military shooter. Back on the story though, we reach the final area where our handler says they've been ordered to kill us via testing, since we've become so good at killing BOWs that we're making Umbrella's products look bad. So jumping into an Antarctica based level, I'm gonna say that I love and hate this section. I love it because the zombie jammer has now become a permanent part of our kit, so we don't actually have to fight zombies too often. The only time enemies will fight back is if you bump into them or attack them. The hate comes from the mutated infected though, as they don't care about your jammer, and one of these guys shows up in pretty much every level. They can also deactivate your zombie jammer when they get close, so you'll just be doing your thing and then a mutated notices you from across the map. Boom, you're dead. Every zombie starts hunting you down. It can be really annoying being on the third objective in a level and then all of a sudden a mutated gets a lock on your position and you just get swarmed. It doesn't help that a lot of this area is pretty tight too, so you never know if you're about to round a corner and run into these things. Also, remember how I said these guys were super fast? Well, that fact hurts nowhere more than here, since if one of them gets on your tail, you might not even have enough time to climb a ledge and get away from them. It really does come down to trial and error near the end. Finishing up the story though, as our handler fails to kill us, they also mysteriously disappear and another replacement handler comes in to oversee our last test, which is pretty much just killing a bunch of zombies and avoiding mutated infected. After we complete the test though, our handler says, "The researchers, they're all afraid of you. They've started calling you the new Grim Reaper." Unironically, this game would have gotten more points if it had have said, "It's you! You're the Umbrella Corps." Oh well, missed opportunity. So all in all, that's Umbrella Corps. If you get this game these days, this is all you can do with the product. There are no players in the servers, there are no offline matches. You buy the game, you're playing the experiment, nothing else. Which brings me to my overall verdict on the game. Do not buy this thing. Under no circumstances should you give up your hard-earned dollary dues to play this piece of doo-doo. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and the content that you can play isn't even that good. Like, to be honest, I had some fun playing this game. There are moments when these systems come together and you get a glimpse at what this thing could be, but then you're jumped by like 5 dogs and the illusion shatters. If you're looking for a Resident Evil themed arcade game where you shoot zombies and have fun, pretty much every Resident Evil game has a mode like that in it, and all of them are far better than this thing. All up, Umbrella Corps is the same level of quality as its music, which is to say, it's inconsistent as fuck. This game's got a little bit of fun to be had somewhere under all the crap, but then again, a lot of games have a little bit of fun to be had, and usually you don't have to wade through a sewer's worth of shitty content to find it. So overall, this thing's a piece of shit shovelware game that I'm not entirely convinced should even be up for sale anymore. And you can definitely spend the $30 this game usually costs a lot better. Personally, as a little experiment, I spent $30 on lunch while working on this video and got a burrito, some chips, sauce, and a drink. And yeah, I had more fun eating that meal than I did playing this game. And if that's not enough to convince you, just hear this. I played this game knowing that I'd at least be able to make a YouTube video when I'm done. I knew I'd get to share my pain. But if you buy this game, you are legitimately purchasing something with half of its content being inaccessible and the other half being an undercooked attempt at an arena mode. Save your money, save your time. This absolute 1 out of 10 does not deserve it. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I made this video because the stars kind of aligned. I needed more time to work on the Quake video, and at the same time, a notoriously horrible short game that I've been looking at for years went on sale. So I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to talk about Resident Evil eventually. I might as well just jump in now. So tell me what you thought. Have you played Umbrella Corps? Were you around for its multiplayer heyday? Did the multiplayer make the game any better? Let me know. I'll be reading the comments, and if I don't see you there, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.